What's up, you guys? It's Julian. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do 2hollis style, like trappy kind of beats, right? I showed you guys how to do the dance music stuff. Now we're going to be doing the trap stuff. To go along this video, you can get this template for Ableton at the top of the description. Grab this so you can follow along with the video. Thanks for the support, guys, and let's get going. Alright, so 144 BPM, and the first thing we got here is our drum group. Now, the reason I got a drum group here, if you listen, you can see they actually don't have any processing on them individually. It's because you want to process these as a group. And I also have this EQ here we can play around with too. But essentially, like, to get this kind of drum sound, it's like kind of that sound of the hi-hats pressing up against the kick, up against the snare, and all this kind of stuff. Plus these things getting like compressed together by saturation. So that's what I got here on the group. And it's just like with the video where we were talking about the dance music stuff. It's like, it sounds really crunchy and destroyed, but you can see, you know, the dry wet's only at 26%, right? So it's all about kind of like creating the illusion that it's really broken, where you're actually kind of doing like a lot more science, I think, than you would realize. The other thing with this is you can play with this EQ. So without it, and you see when we turn it on, it essentially allows you to kind of like tell the saturator what it's going to get, right? So you can take that and you could cut a tiny bit of sub. You could boost here like I did. You know, if you boost up here, you're going to get more crunch with the hi-hats against the kick. So definitely play around with that. But I think a big part of this sound is like group saturation and what kind of happens when you put stuff together. As far as the actual drums go, it's honestly like pretty straightforward trap stuff. Like if we get rid of these sounds, you know, it's just a 16th note hi-hat. This one's kind of interesting with the open hi-hat. It's like on every other 16th note. You can see I play with the velocity a little bit. So it kind of creates like a different groove to that. The snare, yeah, it's kind of a different groove. You know, it's not just all straight halftime snare the whole time through. It's like taking very current trap patterns, but like doing new stuff with them, right? And then also this little fill here. We talked about that the other day, like with this new gen kind of stuff, you know, it's not all these build-ups, and even like with the trap stuff, like the Lex Luger build-ups and all that kind of effects they were using back in the day, you know, it's really more creating the transitions with the sounds in here, like just having this cool. So you can use the drums to do that, like I literally just copied over like that, you know, it's pretty simple. Then we move down to the 808. So what we're doing here is actually a pretty straightforward chord progression. We're going 1, 6, 7, like this kind of big epic, almost like the same type of progression like Hans Zimmer would use in Interstellar. You know, it's that kind of thing. And then over here it goes 1, 6, 4, right? So just kind of like offering that other voice there as like a variation. You know, it's really more about how this like just kind of sits underneath everything. The notes are like just long and held out, and then also doing the switch ups really helps too, like, because it kind of makes it feel more futuristic in the sense that like a lot of trap music is very much just one loop over and over. So when this stuff starts expanding, like just in the MIDI like that, all of a sudden it feels like it's coming from another world, you know? I wanted to make this one from scratch so you guys could see how to do it, because I also think you get a lot more variation that way, and you can do a lot more with this distortion stuff. So to actually make this from scratch is really simple. It's literally just a triangle wave, and then I have the filter on, but it's not being used. I'm using the drive actually, so it's like, if I turn that off, see, we're just pushing this triangle wave a lot. And then I also have this amp envelope like that, just like long and held out, but disappearing over time. And then we got the saturator. So without it, with it. So yeah, that's also a common misconception, right? Like the 808s aren't just all about what saturation you put on them. Like this needs to be a solid, big fat sound like this before any of that, right? So we got that. You can see I've got the dry wet only at 33%, and we're playing with the curve here. So you could literally make it almost anything you want. You could even like automate that and get different sounds, right? So we have that. Then we move down to our first little pluck. So this is just playing the same melody over and over where it's like da 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 da. And what we're actually doing here is kind of like dodging the root note. So we're in the key of C minor, right? But what we're doing is it's going 5, 6, 7, 3. So like you're actually like missing the root note, but then you have the bass play it. And you see it creates this really cool thing. So I think that's a lot of what's happening in those kind of tracks is like even just creative stuff with the music theory like that. Now, the sound on this one's honestly very simply made. It's this operator patch. It's basically a square wave. You can see like high release, like it's like ringing out. And then we're FMing it with this sine wave here, which is like 5 octaves up, and then it's detuned a lot. And then this other one. You can hear it just adds the texture that you really need. And then we got this LFO. This is also big for the texture. It's on the pitch. It's moving really fast, and there's not much of it. But check out without it. With it. It just gives it that more like buzzy kind of thing. This is actually like an old trance hardstyle kind of thing, right? Like it's something they would do a lot on the super saws and those genres. But then you do it on this. And it creates this cool sort of otherworldly pluck. Then the next layer to that is this. So I heard a sound very similar to this in Jeans. So I wanted to just try to recreate it. And what I got here is it's the same pluck. Like it sounds like they literally just took that pluck I just showed you, duplicated it. And then you're kind of playing with like grain effects and volume shaping to create something that fits in. So like we have a grain delay. Right, super like grainy, sprayed out, got the pitch up too, so it's gonna sit higher in the mix than the other one. Right? Then this auto pan, and what this is doing is it's doing that same kind of quarter note sidechain sort of effect. And what it's doing is now it's kind of giving this some rhythm, because obviously like trap drums, you know, there's a lot like of movement already there. This is gonna make this kind of fit into that beat because it's like dun 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 dun. Right, you can even play with different settings. You can do like half notes. Right, so it's basically kind of making that fit into the beat a little bit. And then we high pass it, and also notice it's low pass a little bit too. You know, it's a bit like darker, and it's not so in your face. The other thing with this you can hear is for that transition, it's nice. You know, just have it kind of pop in there, and then when all the other ones disappear, this one can go. And then we just got one more layer, which is a very important layer, which sounds like this. So this is made with the same MIDI. It's a similar patch to the last one. Right, where there's still some FM happening, although it's more about the envelopes on the FM with this one, right? And how that's making it kind of pluckier, because it's like, this is sort of frequency modulating the sound up here and then going away over time. That's all you're doing, right? So we have like this, essentially triangle wave being FM'd by a sine wave an octave up, and then another sine wave, which is also an octave up. Low pass filter, but it's got an envelope. Just kind of makes it more plucky. And then this chorus. Now, this is actually the old Ableton chorus. This is the chorus they had in like 9, I think. Actually, don't ask me how I got this in here. It's weird, but the reason I'm using it is because it has the setting that the new one doesn't have with this feedback. The new one does have it, but it kind of behaves differently. Like this old sort of like modulation matrix and then the feedback there and playing with all this. Yes, I know the settings are in the new one, but it doesn't quite do it the same. So yeah, you can hear it just creates this super metallic, crazy thing. It's essentially a layer for that first pluck I showed you. And see how when I bring it in, they just really sound like one thing that's just like super tweaked and morphed out. Again, it's happening because this feedback is all the way up, so it's basically just you're hearing the chorus like slowly move around its modulation. That's gonna be it for this one, guys. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know if you want to see more of these kind of videos as well. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets. This entire template is available at the top of the description on my website. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.